Welcome back to the DunnWisdom Morning Show. My name is Melissa P. Dunn. I'm the CEO of MD Marketing Network and the founder of this DunnWisdom movement. So you may have noticed that we were on a hiatus last week. We took some time to really regroup and think about how often we want to be on the show so that we could be a little bit more strategic. As I'm sure you know, if you've been following us, I am now a commissioner in the city of Lauderhill. So my time is not as it was. So to that end, we are now going to be coming to you live 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week. We're going to be on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. On Mondays, I'm going to be introducing you to entrepreneurs, professionals, community leaders, folks who are, I'm not going to say folks, women who are getting it done and really living life on purpose. Then on Wednesdays, I'm going to be giving you some tips for your success. And then again, on Friday, we are going to continue our spotlight on Lauderhill business, where we're actually going to go out into the community and visit a local business so that they can talk about what it is that they do and give you, my audience, an opportunity to shop local. So let's get right to it. Today's guest is a client, a woman that I really, truly admire. She has really helped to lead the city of Miami Gardens into a movement that inspires and motivates people to get healthy. This is Ms. Thamara Labrousse. She is a program director for Live Healthy Miami Gardens. Good morning, Thamara.
Good morning, Melissa. It's great to see you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Listen, you have been doing such amazing work in the city of Miami Gardens, you and your whole team. But before we get into that, I want to share with our audience some of your career highlights. So could you give us a brief introduction to yourself?
Sure. I'm Thamara Labrousse, and I am, as you mentioned, the program director for Live Healthy Miami Gardens. I've been here with the city since 2014. I think I've had a really interesting and pretty amazing kind of career track. So I started in social work in my early 20s. I worked for a number of different organizations, and a couple years into my career, I landed at an amazing place called Switchboard of Miami. Switchboard of Miami at the time was the community's kind of safety net for information and referral and crisis intervention and suicide and prevention services. And I actually spent 15 years at Switchboard of Miami. I started as an outreach worker and worked my way up. I had probably, I think now, 4 or 5 jobs within the organization. I became a supervisor, became a director, became the chief operating officer, and then ultimately ended up as the agency's executive director. And so it was a really amazing place. I worked with people, mostly social workers, who were really committed to being there and serving individuals, families, and serving our community. And I left Switchboard after those 15 years, and I went into consulting. And I consulted for 7 years. I worked with a small firm called Strategic Partners. There was just 4 of us, an all-woman-led firm. And our work really specialized in helping to strengthen the infrastructure for nonprofit organizations. I actually, between Switchboard and the consulting work, I had gone back to school and gotten an MBA with a specialization in management, because I really wanted to help to figure out how to strengthen nonprofits by applying typical business philosophies and theories and methodologies to making nonprofits work better. And so my firm really, my consulting work really focused on that. So helping to strengthen the infrastructure. We did a lot of work around building collaborations and looking at ways to help nonprofits build their efficiencies. So I did that for 7 years. And at that time, the city of Miami Gardens was one of the many clients that we were working with. And they were lucky enough to get this opportunity to start focusing on health. And because I was already working with the city, they thought, it was a really good match. And so they invited me to come on board and to help develop what ultimately became Live Healthy Miami Gardens.
I love it. So I want to go back to your switchboard Miami days. So there are a lot of women who are watching right now that may be at entry level in their career, if not mid-level. What do you think was the key to your being able to rise from the bottom all the way to the top of the organization?
You were breaking up a little bit, but I think what I heard in terms of your question is what were, like the keys, to working my way up like that. And I will tell you that I think at its core was just a work ethic. I'm Haitian American. My mother was a waitress, and she did on the weekends, she cleaned people's homes to take care of our family. And she was just a really, really hard worker. She didn't have the opportunity to go to college. She wanted that for her children. And so that was a really important, stressor for her, and just really, kind of preparing us for that. But I think from my mom, I learned to just work hard, and to be committed. She was just a really, really hard worker. And she believed no matter what you did, you should do your best at it. And so I think for me, that was kind of like, that's just always been there in terms of just, working hard and wanting to do a good job, wanting to deliver. I wanted to be proud of the work that I was doing. I wanted to be proud of the end result. I wanted to be proud of the contributions that I made. And so I kind of sort of went along doing that. And I guess at the end of the day, that paid off. I think it was also really, at least for me, to be sure about what aspect of the work was really important for me. I didn't seek out to become the executive director. It just sort of happened, but I think the commitment to the organization, the commitment to the work, wanting to really help this organization live out its mission, and being really committed to that was what, kind of led me down that path.
That's beautiful. We talk a lot about commitment on this show and how there are varying degrees of commitment. You can say that you're committed to something and your actions are completely the opposite, right? But it sounds to me like you were not only 100% committed to the organization and to the work, but you actually translated that commitment into action, which is really important, I think, don't you?
Yes, I do think that, it's important to be very action oriented, very goal oriented, being very clear about what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and even setting benchmarks and setting goals, and kind of having a real clear vision as to what it is that you want to do. I mean, at a small scale, because I was a program director and part of my role was helping to develop and implement programs, it was really important to be clear as to what it is that we were trying to accomplish, who we're trying to serve, how we were trying to serve, those individuals, what kind of outcomes, that we want to have. But that kind of thinking really can be applied to any part of your life, in terms of the idea of having a really clear vision for where you ultimately want to go, or where you ultimately want to end up, and having clear step by step, I guess kind of like a plan in terms of how you're going to get there. I mean, obviously, things don't always work out that way. There's this thing that, I think all of us have heard, that says, we make plans and God laugh at us, and I think that's true to some degree, because you're going to have things that come up that are maybe you didn't predict, or you're going to have challenges along the way. You're going to have barriers, all of those kinds of things. And you have to make those modifications and those adjustments along the way. But it's still very important to just have a really clear vision as to where you're trying to go, and a good sense of how you need to get there.
Powerful. So you left there. Hey, good morning, Portia. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. Good morning to you. So you left Switchboard, went out on your own. How was that transition going into private practice?
It was actually a really interesting transition. Again, I did not plan to go into private practice. I left Switchboard and I wanted to take a break. And at that time, I actually had made a decision that I was going to take a month off. I had planned to spend some time in South Africa. And a colleague of mine who I had done work with over the years, she called me and she said, she offered me a job. And I said to her, I said, oh, I'm not quite ready, to make another commitment anywhere. I wanted to take some time off. But I asked her, I said, why did you reach out to me? And at that time, I had built a reputation for being able to, I was a good operations person and being able to kind of fix what was broken within an organization. And so she said, listen, we're having some challenges. I know that this is something that you can help us with. She was the executive director. So she was not looking for another executive director, obviously. She just wanted somebody to address some of the operation issues that she was having. So I said to her, I said, well, I can do that without, coming on as a full-time person. Why don't we sit down and figure out, what the challenges are? And so that's exactly what we did. And that project ended up being a 5-month project where I went in and kind of worked with her staff, her senior staff, to fix some of the operational issues that they were having and kind of, look at some ways to increase their efficiencies and things of that nature. And while I was doing that project, another colleague of mine, I think they had been speaking to each other. They called, and then that ended up at, another project. And then a colleague of mine, her name is Jean Logan, who is a woman that I have a great deal of respect and love and admiration for. She had been the chief operating officer at the Children's Trust, had worked on the campaign to set up the trust, and then had left the trust and went back into private practice. She called me one day and she said, how is it that you're consulting and you didn't even call me? And I said, consulting, what are you talking about? I said, I'm not consulting, I'm just helping. I'm just helping some colleagues on these projects. And she's like, Thamara, it's called consulting. And you're doing that. You didn't even come to me. And I was like, okay. So that conversation was really enlightening and funny and just inspiring because she saw me doing something that I had not even clearly identified as what it was. And at that time, she had quite a bit of work, and the city of Miami Gardens was one of her clients. She had just taken them on, trying to build this coalition. And she said, I have some work, that I could use some help on, why don't you come? I really think you would like the city of Miami Gardens. I'm working with this phenomenal leader. Her name is Vernita Nelson. She's the parks director. I think you would like her. I would love to introduce you guys and see how you hit it off. And that's exactly what happened. And over time, to make a long story short, a year into this collaboration, Jean sat me down one day and she said, I love what we're doing here together. I would love to make you vice president of this firm and really figure out how we can take this to the next level. And that's exactly what we did. So over the next 6 years, we worked together, the two of us, and then we brought on 2 other partners, Andrea Stevenson and Alexandria Douglas, who are phenomenal leaders and smart women who are so committed. We had the same core values, and we really loved working together. And so that's kind of sort of how it evolved into the 7-year, the 7-year journey, of working together and working with all kinds of nonprofits, working with, government entities, working with even a little bit with some for-profit and some faith-based organizations. And so I just kind of stumbled, into this new career path without even planning it. And I think, it just speaks to a couple of things. One is I had built a reputation for being able to do certain things and do those things really well. And people were coming to me at a time when I had not even decided that I needed to go out and find work. I mean, obviously I needed to work, I needed to earn a living, and I was gonna figure that out, but it just kind of sort of came to me. And I think that's because of the reputation that I had built. And I had, developed a skill set, that people found, could be helpful to them, that they could benefit from. And so I just got really lucky, I think, from that perspective. But I think I also got really lucky to be engaged with these women that I loved, respected, admired. It was just the best time, in my career in terms of this collaboration and this sisterhood, that we had that was based on mutual love and respect and really wanting to make a contribution in the community, in communities that each of us cared very deeply about. So yeah, it was just wonderful. And then from there, I started working with the city, as I mentioned, and this has been a really amazing, empowering, inspiring journey for me as well. Because I had developed a skill set and a specific experience, I also had decided that I wanted to work in 3 communities in Miami-Dade County. I wanted to do work in Liberty City and Little Haiti or in Miami Gardens. I wanted my skill set, my experience, and everything that I knew to be of benefit to a community of color, a community that I felt connected to, a community that I care deeply about. And I think I've been really blessed to be able to pick and choose where I want to work. And so, here I am.
Oh, fantastic. So I know you, of course, through your work with Live Healthy Miami Gardens. Hey, Miss Joy, thanks for watching as always. Good morning. Morning blessings to you as well. So tell us a little bit about Live Healthy Miami Gardens. What do you do?
So Live Healthy Miami Gardens is an amazing, phenomenal project. We are doing things that a lot of other cities don't do. Obviously, health and focusing on health disparities is not your typical municipal function. So our city is just a very progressive city. And it was really important for the leadership of our city, the city manager's office under the leadership of Cameron Benson. And then at the time, our city council under the leadership of Mayor Oliver Gilbert. Rodney Harris is our new elected mayor. They really wanted to focus on the health disparities of Miami Gardens. There had been a number of conversations facilitated with community leaders leading up to even this opportunity to really focus on health disparities and looking at social determinants of health and looking at some of the major challenges that our community was facing. So there's 113,000 residents in Miami Gardens. A good majority of the residents are African American or Caribbean, and there's a lot of health disparities there. Diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, even some cancers to some degree. So there had been some conversations with community leaders about what would it look like for the city to start focusing on health. And they had been doing some things, smaller things, maybe a little more informal. And then the Health Foundation of South Florida released an RFP where they were looking to develop what at the time was called a healthy community partnership. They had identified 11 different communities throughout Miami-Dade County that could apply for this opportunity, given the health disparities within those communities. And so the city decided through the leadership and with the different partners that they would apply. And they did. They competed against 11 communities, and the Health Foundation selected 2. They selected the city of Miami Gardens, and they selected Little Havana, which is located in Miami. And so the city was then awarded a six-year, $3.75 million grant to develop this healthy community partnership. So I was brought on board as the director to bring the partners together, build the partnerships, develop a vision for what what became Live Healthy Miami Gardens would do, develop and select, develop a really comprehensive data analysis and collection process, and using that data to understand what was happening in Miami Gardens in terms of these health disparities, selecting the health impact areas, which we then selected 5. And I'll go into that in a little bit. And then from there, helping the community to develop a community action plan, which is a comprehensive vision for what they wanted to do in Miami Gardens. So what impact areas would they focus on? What strategies would they implement? And all of this was based on the data and the work that we did. So for 18 months, I worked with close to 100 community stakeholders. And these are folks who represented all sectors, right? So nonprofit, government, the school system, the police system, for-profit organizations, the faith-based community, our 2 universities, and all these folks came together and over 18 months really, really worked hard to develop this collective vision. And so that became what is now Live Healthy Miami Gardens.
Wow. So it was an 18-month process.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'm happy that you said that to me, because I'm looking to, as you know, replicate or apply some of the lessons learned in Miami Gardens to my city in Lauderhill. And so I wasn't thinking 18 months, but good to know.
Yeah. Here's what's tricky. Here's what tricky about looking at a model or looking at a community and looking at something that they're doing and saying, wow, I want to be able to do something like that. What people sometimes don't realize is you're like, for right now, you're looking at us 6.5 years in. And so your idea of like wanting to do this can't be based on where we are presently, because it took us 6.5 years to get here, right? You have to kind of understand the historical and perspective and the planning that went into this. So we were really lucky in a number of different ways in how this initiative started, because we were working with a funder who actually understood and valued this idea that there needed to be time just for planning and for better understanding the issues, and more importantly, for also engaging community in a way where community voice was really represented, and not just being able to speak about the problems, but being able to craft the solutions. So the Health Foundation built in what was a 12-month planning period. It ended up taking us 18 months because there were so many different elements that needed to be addressed. And it just took longer. And I think that's another point that I would make, is that it takes longer than you think it's going to take. And so after the 18 months, we got to a place where we were really, really clear about what it was, what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it, who needed to be engaged, what resources we needed to make it happen. And then from that point, we moved into implementation. But yes, you're looking at us 6.5 years in, but it took us, it took quite a bit of planning and evaluation and assessing and understanding to get to the place
where you are now. All right. Sure. Noted. Well, I've been watching the journey, and to some extent, I've been kind of a part of the journey for 3 years now, working with you on 4. Wow. Working with you guys on the communications piece. And so I know that this is a very special week for the city of Miami Gardens, in that you are celebrating National Influenza and Vaccination Week, which is an initiative from the CDC. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So our work is funded right now primarily by the CDC. And one of the things that the CDC wanted to focus on this year was the idea of getting as many people vaccinated as possible and getting a flu vaccine, particularly because of the co-circulation with COVID. So we've partnered with the CDC, and we are also partnering with 3 local organizations to do this work. And the idea is, getting a flu shot is the best defense against getting the flu. And when you get the flu, it compromises your immune system, and it makes you susceptible to COVID. And if you have COVID, it compromises your immune system and makes you susceptible to the flu. So the idea here is to, use this opportunity of getting a flu shot as the best defense against the flu, to keep your immune system as strong as possible. So we're doing this very, detailed, comprehensive, campaign that is about educating, that is about engaging, but also providing the free resources that our communities need, so that they, as many people can get vaccinated as possible. So we're partnering with Jesse Trice Community Health Systems, Center for Family and Child Enrichment, and UHI Community Care Clinic. These are all three of these organizations or clinics that are physically located within the city of Miami Gardens, and they're working with us to offer free flu shots within their respective locations, but also we'll be doing that throughout the community at different locations as well.
Fantastic. So if you're in the city of Miami Gardens, go to livehealthymiamigardens.com for a list of locations. There are a number of activities that's happening this week. In particular, I want to speak about the wellness webinar that's happening on Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Could you give us some information about that?
Sure. So as I mentioned just a minute ago, that part of this is really an educational piece for us. We don't just want to say, hey, here's a location, go get a flu shot. We want people to engage in conversation about overall health and why getting a flu shot is important, why keeping your immune system strong is important, and just overall things that you can do to focus on, being the healthiest, version of yourself as possible. So Wednesday's event is just the same kind of idea. So folks can log on and they can participate in this conversation with our medical director from Center for Family and Child Enrichment. And she will present some information and kind of engage them in conversation about, how to be healthy, why this is important. And I'm sorry, this is on Thursday and not on Wednesday. So why this is
yes, sorry, yes, Thursday the 10th. My apologies, I said Wednesday.
You said Wednesday, then I repeated Wednesday, knowing that it's Thursday. But yes, Thursday the 10th. And so the whole idea is to engage in conversation with Dr. Michelle Curran, who is a phenomenal a pediatrician, and she does a lot of work around family health. And she'll be talking about, and dispelling the myths around the flu and just engaging our community in conversation about that. We also wanted to make it entertaining. So we also have added an entertainment element as well. So it's just an opportunity to engage, use that lunch hour to engage and to learn some new information, have a good time, and also, engage with other folks who are interested in being healthy.
Yeah, so come out so that folks can log in for 30 minutes, get some health education, and get a concert by neo soul artist Jashay Jones while you're at your desk eating your healthy lunch. I think that's a really cool idea. So what's next for Live Healthy Miami Gardens?
So for us, we, from the very beginning, it's always been important to us, and we set this as a core value of the initiative, is to build this in a way that is sustainable. So some folks, I think, thought, okay, so we got this initial 6-year grant, so the initiative is just going to phase away, after 6 years. And that oftentimes happens, with grant funded programs, but that's not the vision that we had for Live Healthy. And so we've been building this in a way that's been, sustainable. And so we've gone from the 6-year, formal partnership with the Health Foundation, which, although the former contractual and funding relationship has ended, they're still in partnership with us in many ways, supporting the work. And now we're funded, by the CDC. I mean, I think for us, we are having conversations about, like, health equity, for example. Like, how can we be much more intentional about infusing health equity as our work, giving, what's happening in our nation, around equality and equity and things of that nature. So that's going to be a major focus over the next year. We're also focusing, obviously, on this flu thing and what's happening with COVID, and trying to get our community to be as healthy as possible and maintaining, a healthy immune system, and just, taking those steps to be healthy and to take care of them, an individual take care of themselves and their families. So that's going to be a focus. We have a whole new city council, and we're having conversations with each of our members. We have a city council member that's particularly interested in women's health. And so I think you may see a bit of a focus specifically on women's health as a result of that. So there's a number of major projects that are happening, and our future is bright. Our future looks good. We are, working with, like I said, 100 community stakeholders, 66 organizations. I've never worked with a more committed group of people. I've never worked with a group of people that is more aligned in terms of this shared vision. And so it's just really an amazing opportunity to be involved in this work. And I think we're going to just continue, to do what we've been doing, just looking at ways of how we can improve the conditions in Miami Gardens so that it is the healthiest place, for people to live, work, and play.
I love it. I love it. Any final words of wisdom?
Oh, I guess, it's so hard sometimes to focus on ourselves, particularly as women. because oftentimes we're managing so many different roles and we're responsible for so many different things. And it can feel stressful and overwhelming. And in that, I think it's hard to prioritize ourselves. And so I struggle with that. I know a lot of my friends, my sisters out there, they struggle with that. So I guess my little bit of tip, little wisdom would be, prioritize yourself, make yourself important, focus on you. You are in the best position to work and to give back, to your family when you're whole and when you're well and when you're your healthiest version. So please focus on yourself and take the time to take care of you.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for having me. We're honored to be here this morning.
Fantastic. All right, guys. So go to livehealthymiamigardens.com for more information. And remember, the wellness webinar is on Thursday, the 10th of December at 12 p.m. You can find information at livehealthymiamigardens.com. Thank you for joining us again for another episode of the DunnWisdom Morning Show. Remember, be kind and loving to yourself. You deserve it.